This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. As you guys know, I always like to bring in other voices from outside the Browns bubble so we can kind of get a good idea of what may or may not transpire this week. And I couldn't imagine two bubbles in two completely different places this week. The Baltimore Ravens were after a 2-0-2 start, have won every game since that 0-2 start. And they're starting to play some of their best football, right? I mean, the Commanders came in. A lot of people thought that'd be a tough opponent. I think the Ravens pretty handily beat them. And then last week, Monday Night Football against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Ravens put on probably their most impressive performance of the year, most certainly Lamar Jackson's most impressive performance of the year. So I guess that's where we should start this conversation, is with Lamar Jackson. There's been a lot of conversation about this being his third MVP. You've witnessed all of these years of Lamar Jackson. Do you think this is his best football he's played yet so far?
I do, for sure, because when we saw him with the Greg Roman offense, we would all watch it and be like, it's good. It's really, really good. But it's not bringing the most or even the best out of Lamar Jackson. It felt like they were holding him back. It felt like they weren't letting him be the Lamar Jackson that we know is there. So we've seen plenty of flashes of it over the years, but they not really letting him letting him go through his full arsenal and whatnot. And then when the Ravens got Todd Monken last year, we started to see things open up. We're like, oh, okay, here we go now. And with last year, what was different from a lot of the years with Greg Roman, obviously, it was a very strong running game. But when it came to the passing game, it was like, all right, with Greg Roman, you either stop Hollywood Brown and you stop Mark Andrews. If you stop those two, then Ravens passing game is done. But with Todd Monken, what we saw last year is that if you stop Mark Andrews, obviously we haven't had Hollywood for a little bit, but if you stop Mark Andrews and you stop Zay Flowers, then they still got other options that they would be able to throw it to, and they just open things up. And when we saw last year when Mark Andrews went down, I was like, oh, like it's all really on Isaiah Likely. Now, can he handle it? And I was thinking, all right, we need to bring in a tight end. We need to bring in a veteran tight end, but Ravens didn't bring in anybody. And Isaiah Likely, he just went crazy with it. So we got to see the Baltimore Ravens establish other weapons for Lamar Jackson to use. We got to see him open things up. And then in this second year with this Todd Monken offense, they just been going crazy with it. And they really allowed him to have control of the offense, for him to just spread that ball around, for him to throw that ball all over the field too. And one last thing, looking at Todd Monken's offense with Lamar versus Greg Roman's offense with Lamar, we've seen it so many times under Greg Roman with so many receivers. They would all be in the same place. They'd all be in the same area of the field, and where everything would be so condensed. But with Todd Monken's offense, they use the whole sideline to sideline. They use the entire field, so it's been nice to see.
Now, one thing I look at when we came into the season with this Baltimore team was there was a big concern about that offensive line. Replacing 3 of the 5 starters there. And during the 0-2 start, a lot of people were pointing at that offensive line as the reason the team is 0-2. Now that you've gone on, what is it, a 5-0 run the last 5 weeks, right? Yeah. Now that you've gone on this 5-0 run, do you think the offensive line is actually a big part of why this team has been able to make the run that they've had in the second part? And what do you think's just gone right with that offensive line, if that's the case?
I think it's just time, because we with the Baltimore Ravens, their offense, they did not play in the preseason together, like, at all. Their starting offense didn't play at all. So they weren't able to click like that. They weren't able to gel like that. So the offensive line, first time all playing together, was week 1 against the Chiefs, and going against Chris Jones, going against Karl Loftus, like that's some tough opponents to go against your very first week playing together. And then the second week going against Max Crosby too, it's like, whoa, that's tough. Even though, again, there's no excuses for the Ravens in those games, they still lost both of those games. but the offensive line, they weren't clicking as much as they should have. But then it all seemed to change when they played the Dallas Cowboys because while the offensive line did play better, it seemed like the play calling it helped out the offensive line a lot too. Just getting the ball out of Lamar Jackson's hands quicker and just allowing Derrick Henry to do Derrick Henry stuff. That's when he really started to become more of a factor and more consistent. It was in that week 2 game against the Raiders, even though they still lost, but then certainly in that week 3 game against the Cowboys. So just watching that, the play calling has been better, but it's allowed the offensive line to have more confidence. And they still have had their issues here and there. They still been shaky in some spots here and there, but that bread and butter being a run game, that allows the offensive line to get confidence and then allows them to execute better when it comes to the passing game as well. To just give Lamar, just to keep him as clean as they possibly can. Now, there are times too when because with a Ravens offensive line, the quarterback like Lamar Jackson, he's going to be able to erase a lot of stuff. Because there are times when guys will come in, when pressure will get there, but Lamar makes somebody miss and he'll go out and make a play. So that still happens, but there are a lot more times when they keep that pocket clean as well to just give Lamar plenty of time. So offensive line has definitely improved a lot, which it was needed big time.
All right, let's kind of shift gears here, talk about the defense a little bit, because that's the most interesting thing when you look at this Baltimore Ravens team. Offensively, Lamar Jackson is playing great. Derrick Henry's rolling downhill. Like, maybe there were some people who I thought that Derrick Henry would struggle in this offense, and he did the first 2 weeks. And sometimes he does until he breaks off an 80-yard run. Like, that's the most frustrating. That take on Derrick, I'm not wrong for 90% of the game on that take because Derrick Henry be having like 12 carries for 32 yards. And I'll be sitting like, see? It's an awkward fit. And then he just gets a wide open rush lane. And here comes the 50-yard run. And all of a sudden, I'm as wrong as could possibly be on that take. And I've just called time of death on it. I was wrong about the Derrick Henry thing. But we kind of know where the Ravens production is going to come. It's going to come from the MVP candidate. It's going to come from their all-pro running back, right? And that offensive line leading the way. And then what they can get from their tight ends and their wide receivers in between. Now, this defense for Baltimore, I think has been interesting because if you look at these point totals in these games and you think about what the Baltimore Ravens were doing last year, it's so much higher than it was. And then you think like, hey man, Geno Stone left. You also left. I forget what is the name of the safety you lost to Pittsburgh because he's playing excellent football
No, we
for
lost
Pittsburgh right now.
Geno Stone to the Bengals. We lost Patrick Queen to the Steelers. Oh, Deshaun Elliott. That was a
Deshaun
couple
Elliott right now, right? And
David Clowney too. So yeah.
Jadeveon Clowney, and then you also think about the fact that you lost your defensive coordinator last year.
Mm-hmm.
Is this one of those things where the defense is going to figure itself out sooner than later, or is this one of those things where you're just kind of accepting that this defense just isn't going to be as shut down as it was last year?
Yeah, to compare it to last year, it's tough. It's really tough because that defense was they were amazing. They had a lot of amazing players. They were great. And we knew like with a defense like that last year, the only place to go when you're at the top is down. We didn't think we were going to drop all the way down, especially when it comes to pass defense. Because run defense, okay, no problem, no issues there. But pass defense it's been horrific, ugly. Especially when you can like this is a Baltimore Ravens team. Ravens, their bread and butter offense is usually the run game, and defense is just all defense. Period. Whether pass defense, run defense, all of that. But so to see this on such a nasty, consistent basis, it's been bad. It's been bad. It's awkward too because it's like man, look, every single game, because the Ravens and they do this weird thing to where the defense in the beginning of a game they'll be playing pretty good. Like it happened on Monday night against the Bucks. Like even though Bucks like their first drive of the game, like Bucks to me from jump they show like we're not scared of this Ravens defense because what you see a lot of teams do because Ravens lost the toss, Bucks won it, and a lot of teams will be like, all right, we'll kick the ball so we could get it at second half. But Bucks said no, we're receiving the ball. And to me, that showed like we ain't worried about this Ravens defense. And what did they do on that first drive? They went right down the field on Ravens defense and threw a touchdown to a wide open Mike Evans. And that's been an issue with Ravens defense. Guys have been wide open. And that's a problem. But then, so after that, they end up just scoring 10 points. And then Ravens went on like a 34-0 run. So the defense had been doing their job at that point. But then in that fourth quarter, the Bucks they score Then they score again. I know they got an onside kick. Lamar Jackson, he had the fumble. So it's just silly stuff done by the Ravens. But still, the Bucks took advantage like they should have, and they kept scoring. So this defense, like they'll have nice moments, but they'll have a lot more bad moments than nice ones. And we are glad that the offense has been carrying, and they've been carrying in a major way. Because we're just not used to a Ravens defense like this. So we haven't accepted that this is what the defense is going to be, because it's like, I know there've been a lot of Ravens fans that be like, oh, we should trade for a pass rusher. We should trade for a corner. And I could see that. But to me, I don't feel like it's a personnel issue, because the Baltimore Ravens, they have special players on every single level of the defense. I feel like it's more of a scheme thing. It's more of a coaching thing. Because it'd be one thing if, say, for instance, you one-on-one, it's a corner matched up with a wide receiver, and the wide receiver just makes a better play than the corner. So, okay, the wide receiver won that rep. All right, they can fix that. Say, for instance, it's a linebacker matched up with a running back, and the running back just makes a play on the line. Okay, the running back won that rep. But it's not. It's been guys literally wide open every single game. And that's a big issue. Ravens defense also, they've been having a lot of communication issues, and that's a problem. So to me, it's not personnel, it's coaching. So again, no, we can't accept that this is Ravens defense. It cannot be like that. So we hoping, just hope, because we know that Ravens, they're not going to make no coaching change. You're not going to fire a first-year defensive coordinator, especially in the middle of the season. It just doesn't happen like that for the Baltimore Ravens. But we are hoping that adjustments can be made, and there can be a better level of consistency and communication when it comes to this defense overall.
All right, now you come into this matchup with the Browns. I'm interested to know like what the vibe is from Baltimore, because you're coming off such a big time game, right? Monday Night Football, and it was such a big time moment there with the Jackson Five on national TV and all of the stuff there. Lamar getting a lot of like MVP push. Like it's been interesting because the only people I've heard even bring up the argument that Lamar shouldn't get the MVP are the people who are worried that people are going to make the argument that Lamar shouldn't get the MVP at this point, right? Like it's kind of been like, well, some people are going to say he didn't win in the playoffs, so he shouldn't get the MVP, but he should be the MVP. It's like I think everybody's like looking at this, thinking like, yeah, he's probably the MVP right now. And then you play this Cleveland team who, from the outside looking in, especially, like they look tumultuous, right? The whole thing with Deshaun Watson happened last week. The fans and the players going after it. Nick Chubb is coming back. The Browns right now, I don't know who's playing left tackle this week because Jed Wills has not practiced all week. How do you guys view this game, and do you think that there's a chance for a letdown here with the Baltimore Ravens going into this game, with how bad the Browns have looked? Are they going to go into this like they have in years past with normal AFC North games?
No, like if you had a house and in your house you had a mouse, what would you do to try to get rid of that mouse? You would set what this game is, and that's a trap. This got trap game written all over it, man. Ravens, they really got to be on point in this Browns game, because it's like, because Ravens obviously they've been rolling. They've been rolling. Everything's been looking good. But for the Browns, everything's been looking bad. But it's still, one, it's a divisional game. And then two, like the Browns, they a lot is changing, because Deshaun Watson, obviously, like you mentioned, he's out for the season. So the quarterback's going to change, but not only the quarterback, but Kevin Stefanski said, you know what? No, I ain't going to be calling the plays no more. Give it to Ken Dorsey. So that's a big change right there too. So everything that the Ravens have seen thus far this season, as far as the Browns offense, it's like a blank slate now, because Jameson Winston is starting and they got a new play caller as well. So Ravens, like they really, you cannot go into this game cocky. You cannot go into this game arrogant. You cannot go into this game feeling yourself like, oh yeah, we fresh off of 5 wins. We got this. No, you still got to treat this game like all the other ones. And they know that. But you cannot overlook the Browns at all. Like at all, especially because so many people are obviously overlooking them, because it's been a rough season to this point. So this game, it has trap written all over it. That's why I would love if it's a blowout. Hey, if it's a blowout, I would love it. But I don't expect it to be one. I think it's going to be one of those annoying games. I think it's going to be one of those stressful games that Ravens gonna have to fight for. I really do believe that, because this Browns team, like when you you go through a change like what the Browns are going through right now, especially your quarterback, your star quarterback, your starting quarterback. He's done for the year. So Browns, what makes them a much more dangerous team is the fact that right now they don't have anything to lose. Say for instance, Browns lose this game, it'll be like, oh, okay, we lost to the Ravens. Ravens won 5 games in a row before this one. It would just be six. And the Browns season not going really good right now. So, but the fact that the Browns have nothing to lose, I expect them to be going forward on some more fourth downs. I expect them to be throwing some trick plays in there. And again, especially since you got a new play caller too, they're gonna be willing to try out some stuff, man. So Ravens, like they can't overlook the Browns in this one because, like I said, they got trap written all over.
Yeah, and I think it's an interest. Like the Browns right now, I would argue they've played some really bad football, but the last 2 weeks, defensively, they've looked like what they used to look like the last couple of years, right? Where you're like, okay, the Browns have really good defense. Like they only gave up 14 points to Cincinnati. Cincinnati got 7 of those points off of special teams. And you could argue the Browns only lost that game to Cincinnati because they gave up, 11 points on special teams, a missed field goal, a missed extra point, and a kick return touchdown that got returned that really shouldn't have, because it's not like the returner had to do anything special there. And then the defense I thought played really well in that game. I thought they played pretty well against Philadelphia for about 4 quarters there as well. It's just been the offense, right? The Browns offense has not been able to get over 20 points, and that has been the big scourge of the team. And with Jameis in there, like, one of the things that I think this offense needs, somebody's going to attack the intermediate part of the field. And the one thing with Jameis, he's going to come in there and attack it. He came in there one drive. DTR had a whole half. Deshaun had a whole half in that game. And he led the team in intermediate pass attempts. One drive. He threw 7 intermediate passes. The Browns threw like 2. Like, I think 3 combined between DTR and Deshaun Watson. Jameis comes in there one drive, doubles that, right? I think that's going to open up the offense a little bit. So it's going to be interesting how this game plays out, because as much as the turmoil from last week can be something that tanks what already was a bad season, I think there's also a chance that that kind of brings the locker room together in a way and galvanizes them and gives them something to play for the rest of the year, because, you know, they have something to be united about on this, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how this team responds. I don't think a Kevin Stefanski coach team is just going to finish at 3-13. I would be very shocked if that were the case. I think they're going to start playing some better football sooner than later. And what a statement it would be to play that better football and beat a team that everybody is like right now saying is the favorite to come out the AFC. Like, and also, this is definitely one of them games that the Browns would like get on the Ravens randomly, right? Because I think the same exact thing happened in like 2019, where the Browns were struggling out the gate, and then the Ravens had just almost beat the Chiefs, or did beat the Chiefs, I believe. And then Nick Chubb goes off for like 200. That's another thing to think about. Nick Chubb's back. Wyatt Teller's back. They're going to run this ball a lot. And the more comfortable Nick Chubb gets, the more thorough he's going to be. And this team has a little bit of confidence going up against Lamar, because I think they've done a decent job against him, at least in the games that were like they didn't have absolutely no faith in the quarterback. Well, like the one where DTR played 2 hours after being notified that he would have to play. So yeah, I'm interested to see how they come out for this one, because I agree with you. I don't think this is going to be what everybody's going to predict it to be, because I believe the line on this is probably crazy, right? But I don't think that the Browns are going to roll over and give this one up. I think they're going to put a much tougher fight up than people assume here. And I think they're due for a big day offensively. I think they're due for a game where they put things together as a team, because they just haven't played complementary football all year. Doing it against the Ravens, though, the way they've played, going to be interesting to see, man. And you know how furious I'm going to be if we hold Derrick Henry to 30 yards this whole game. And then he gets a 60-yard run at the end. You know how furious I'm about to be, because I was watching that one and he got that 80-yard run, and I was watching, I was like, anybody could have got that, man. Keaton Mitchell would have scored on that one. Like, it was so open. What happened, Tampa Bay? Like, you could have held it together for that one drive. And I was like, oh man, I'm just gonna give this one up. Like, I'm just gotta give this one up. But it's definitely gonna be interesting to see how these two teams come up and play each other. Definitely gonna be interesting to see what Jameis looks like. Like the thing with switching to play callers to me too is I think it's more about the procedural penalties they've been getting, right? Because when you watch the Browns, you notice that they're always up against the play clock. And I think that causes a lot of those illegal procedure, illegal motion, ineligible format, like all that stuff that, the pre-snap penalties that I think Raven fans, because I know when I talk to Sonny about that, he gets furious about the pre-snap penalties that Greg Roman used to get all the time. And I think some of that is like when you have these like super long play calls or super long play call processes, that's going to happen because guys are up against the clock, they're rushing, they're not in their normal rhythm. And I think that's what this is. They changed the play caller for is just to get the play call in earlier, and just get it snapped and set and just run something right. And I'm interested to see Jameis because he has such a different philosophy at quarterback than any of the other guys that we have. What that change in philosophy does for this Browns offense because we know Kevin's a good offensive coordinator. The question is like always been more about the quarterback play he's received more so than the coaching. And by proxy, I guess some of that does land on him when you're always worried about the quarterback play. But it's I'm actually finding myself to be as excited as you could be going into a game where you're playing a team that has the MVP and what people think is going to be the one seed eventually in the Baltimore Ravens, and you're 1-6. Like I'm about as excited as you could be for that. But yeah, I really think this is going to be an interesting, at least a fun watch here, and it's going to be interesting to see which Browns team finally shows up here. Because if we're blaming the bulk of the problems on the quarterback, well, you got to put up a better performance this week, right?
Yeah. So hey, get a fresh start. So we'll see.
We'll see. We'll see. It will slightly inconvenience the Ravens if the Browns win this game, but it'll be worth it, right? Like it would be worth it. Like what could be the worst outcome for the Ravens in this game? Like outside of like injury, was just like how the game could play out, or like if you do lose it and you lose it in a specific way. For you as somebody who cares about the Ravens, what would be the way that they could lose this game where you would be like, now that actually concerns me?
Um, hmm. That's a good question. If the offense just fell flat, I think if the offense fell flat in this game, that would be concerning, especially just because of how powerful they've been. With the
Mm-hmm.
defense, we have and it sucks to say, we have very low expectations for the defense. We're hoping that they sort of turn into more of an opportunistic defense. It almost seems as if with Ravens' pass defense, they are interception or bust because they have had a good amount of drop picks. But they've also had some picks, and those picks have changed the game. But if they don't catch a pick, then as far as pass defense, it's been really, really, really rough. So yeah,
So
I feel
you're
like
wait, you're
offense.
telling me that you have an opportunity secondary, kind of similar to Marcus Peters, and we
Oh,
out here throwing out Jameis.
he just with him
This
and
game going ping pong, like back and forth.
with Marcus Peters, Ravens let him go. Well, they didn't re-sign him, but then he signed with the Raiders for like felt like a couple of weeks. What was that last year, the year before last? And then he just
Kind
disappeared.
of peter out. But I'm saying, if you're telling me that the Ravens take a lot of chances to try to get interceptions, and the Browns are rolling out the quarterback who takes a lot of chances
Oh
to get
yeah,
receptions,
some got to give.
something's going. This is going to be. This has the makings of like one of those random 35-42 shootouts or something like that. Where it's like, hey man, no defense was played at all. Like that sounds like the Big 12 to me. Okay, like. So,
Hey, they're like, look, again, right? Nothing to lose. Nothing to
mm-hmm,
lose. And Jameis Winston, he could be looking to prove himself again. This would be his first like real opportunity in a little while. I know he was with the Saints for a little while. Now he's with the Browns. So we'll see, man. We'll see. Cause we know he's gonna be out there taking them risks, like you said. He's gonna be out there taking the chances and going up against. I'm pretty sure the last in pass defense in the entire league, going against that secondary, and a secondary that could is he didn't practice today. Secondary that could be without a Marlon Humphrey. So we'll see what happens with that. I don't think he's gonna play though. He
yeah.
left. that Bucks game on Monday Night Football with an injury. They said he's straight. He don't have no serious injury or anything like that. But to play 6 days later after leaving that game with injury and he didn't practice these past 2 days, I highly doubt that he's gonna play. So Jameson Winston, I keep calling him Jameson. Jameis Winston will be going against rookie Nate Wiggins, who's been solid. Brandon Stevens, who he's such a weird cornerback, man. He's
Mm,
weird because he never gets burnt. He's never like out of place. He's always right there with the receiver, but he just cannot get his head turned around. That is his issue. And that's
mm.
such a big issue, obviously, because if you can't get your head turned around and make a play on the ball, then it's tough. It's really tough. Arthur Millette, this will be his first game back. This will be his first game this season, as a matter of fact. So yeah, Ravens secondary, they're gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting. Marcus Williams, the safety he is, it's been rough. It's been really rough for him. Eddie Jackson, who we signed in free agency, he's had a pretty rough season as well. Darius Washington has been really, really good, but he keeps dropping picks every game. These past 2 games, he's dropping picks. And last week, against the Bucks on Monday, he dropped a pick and it ended up turning into a big reception. So it's like it's yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see. It's gonna be new secondary, new looking secondary against a new quarterback and new looking offense. So yeah, well, one of the two got to give, man.
It's going to be interesting to see. I'm excited to watch it. Make sure you guys check it out here. Make sure you guys check out Engraven. He does a lot of great stuff on his channel. Appreciate you being on the show. Appreciate you being on the show with the fresh cut too. I noticed it's clean. The cut's clean. The lineup's clean, man. I was like, wow, you might, but you give me the impression because like I can see the baby hairs. I'm like, you must have had like a perfect hairline head. Like you just got like the perfect hair. And your hairline ain't never gonna recede. Like it's just been right there your whole life. And I'm just jealous of that kind of fortune.
I
Like,
appreciate you, man. I
yeah,
appreciate you having me on too, man. So thank you.
no problem, man. No problem, man. Y'all have a good one. Everybody have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.